if you're using mobile and it's faster, you are less likely to lose clients while they're doing their journey. If you're the owner of a top-notch store, Beyonce goes there. They're expected to have like a very VIP treatment. So you're guided into the best experience that they can because they know you, they know your preferences and so on. So if you can have the same experience for any common user, is it so hard to do with the means that you have now?
Yeah.
Not really. Tech is just a tool. Focus more on what are the business gains and purposes and objectives, and then go from there to the tech stack that you want to use.
You know, we've been obviously hosting the podcast. I feel people on the other side don't kind of know you enough. You've been at Mindera for 9 years.
You can say that you are just punishing me for the questions that I threw at you.
Okay, if you want to take it as well, it's fair. We'll start in the same way as you did and ask Gemini to tell us.
Pedro Vicente is a mobile services lead and principal software craftsman, sometimes referred to as senior software craftsman at Mindera. He is based in Porto, Portugal. Professional role and experience. Role: he is an improver and the mobile services lead at Mindera. Focus: he has dedicated over 15 years to coding with a specialization in Android development since its launch in 2008. Expertise: he has led teams and developed mobile applications for banking, retail, and telecommunications companies.
How much of this do you recognize yourself?
I spent a lot of years on mobile. So when I started on tech, I thought initially that web would be my thing. And then iOS and Android just launched at that stage in 2008, I believe. And I just thought it was really cool. And then jumped into that bandwagon, not knowing that so many years after I'd be still kind of running this game and kind of having fun.
How often do you judge people by the choice of their phones?
It was worse in the past. Now I'm more open-minded. Since Windows Phone died, I think I'm a better person now. So I think in Android and iOS are actually similar every year, more similar every year. So I had a few issues with Apple, to be honest, at the beginning. I don't love very closed ecosystems, although I use a MacBook, love my MacBook. But the concept of very closed ecosystems where I believe I'm a super user in terms of tech and I want to customize little pieces of tech and it doesn't need to be Apple. So when any tech ecosystem really closes the door, it annoys me. So I had some issues with that. I think as time progressed, as I said, both Android got less permissive because that power brings also a bunch of problems. Like the phone gets slower because you don't have a ton of apps just booting with the system and a bunch of things. So I understood also as I grew, I understood that is also a problem. And they are more alike. And now I'm less judgmental. I see the advantages on both. I'm still an Android user on phone and a MacBook user on laptop. So I guess I'm with the feet on both sides. I also like Java was my main language, then Kotlin. Now I also touch a little bit of Swift. So I guess I sold a little bit of my soul.
Which advice would 2025 Pedro give to 2016 Pedro when you joined Mindera?
As I developed more and I had contact with more and more tech and companies and products, I have more and more the idea that tech is just a tool. Some of them are fancier and nicer to work than others. That's true, depending on your on what you like, actually. But it's just a tool. So I'd say, Pedro, focus more on what are the business gains and purposes and objectives, and then go from there to the tech stack that you want to use. Sometimes it's different. It's difficult to, as a developer, to decouple what you want to do from what makes sense. Now I think it's way easier for me to do that. As you start and you're really excited with the shiny new object thing that we mentioned when we were speaking, I think it's harder. So that's one of the advices that I'd give actually to any new developer. Like when you're choosing how to build things, think that you're choosing for someone else, not yourself.
If your career was an app, what will the latest release note say?
If I'm getting too comfortable on something, I feel that I'm not learning anything. I'm not being challenged enough, so I'm lacking the opportunity to grow. Though that's what sometimes drives me to jump into very different topics. So let's give an example. So internships. I initially observed and then thought, okay, I have a different idea on how to act on this. First of all, do projects that never go into the drawer and always build something that is used. So trying to think of projects that were useful internally or even for clients, jumping into those different topics is kind of a necessity for myself to grow and to experiment and to test myself. I'm trying to be a full stack person. I like to mingle a little bit my personal life and my work life, as in friends and even what I learn. I want to learn more both on business, as in growing from Android to iOS to Kotlin multi-platform to React Native. So that kind of journey was also to kind of get more of a full stack vision of tech, and then growing into culture. Why do some teams work better than others? Why do people react in a certain way? How can I get the team to be comfortable and actually like to work here? So I guess my release notes would be like attempt number 127 to be a full stack life engineer. Attempt failed, retrying.
That balance between the pleasure that you take from, say tech or the non-tech topics and aspects, has the balance changed?
I felt that as I grew more technically, I could then have all the pains that I went through. I could probably try to help teams and other people to kind of jump through them. One of the most pleasurable things for me is getting into a team that is either not enjoying what they're doing or things are not going right. And it's not me that I go there and solve things. I'm not like the tech Jesus. That doesn't make sense at all. But just kind of nudging like, hey guys, have you tried this or have you tried that? Or how can we just sit down and think about it? And then all of a sudden, on their own effort, not mine, I'm just nudging them, things start to go and kind of at a good pace and things start to go well. That's really pleasurable, like seeing people happy on their life. A lot of people think of work and life as separate things. I think it's a very artificial division, because if you have a very poor experience at work, that will kind of go into your personal life. And the opposite, if you have a very happy work life, that probably gives joy to your personal life. Whatever I'm doing is to try to make that a good experience, both from our clients to kind of see joy in their faces as they imagine a product and it comes to life and it brings more than that they were hoping, but also with minders that kind of are trying to work in a place and be proud of what they're doing. That's, I think, is the sweet spot. And it doesn't matter if I'm coding or if I'm doing Jira tickets. It really doesn't matter what I need to do. I just need to figure out what the team needs me to do. Along
these last 9 years, if you can pinpoint a moment where you thought, yeah, this is why I'm at Mindera.
So during COVID, so we were all at home. My wife is a medical doctor, so she couldn't be at home, so she was working. And I had a newborn. So I had 3 kids at home. The assumption from the government at that time was that everybody would somehow still need to work while the kids had classes remotely through the computer. And in theory, I should work 8 hours a day. So who thought this was possible? I'm curious, but that was kind of the rule. In that time, you, Paul, and a bunch of others kind of being very clear to me, stating, yeah, you can work 8 hours a day, you can work 4 hours a day, you can work 1 hour a day. If you can do, if you can't, there's no worries. If you cannot work, say it, and we'll still pay you the same amount at the end of the month. We'll still have the same respect for you. It's all good. Hearing that at that moment was something really, really meaningful, and something that I kept really in my heart.
That's good to hear. It's the first time I hear it. Yeah. Okay, so lightening up things a bit.
Sorry.
If you had to describe the Mindera culture kind of in one sentence, what would it be?
In one word?
No, either, sentence,
A little word.
or a little story, whatever helps you the most.
I think it's hope and trust-driven company. There's a belief that people are inherently good, so we should trust them to start with and only consider otherwise if there's anything pointing otherwise, which is normally the opposite of most companies where you place kind of heavy management exactly because you think if you give kind of space, people try to work the least possible. Having that principle is daring. So I think it's brave.
What do you think are, if any, kind of common misunderstandings about mobile?
I was interviewing for a role. I did a little bit of role play. And the idea was to state company X has a problem and they're saying the apps are not performing. And how do you go at that? The purpose of that was for you to go back and forth, like asking kind of what is the problem, trying to first scope the problem to then get a solution at it. What I found really strange was a bunch of people just trying, what is the tech stack of the apps? Native. Okay, let's go with React Native. Just throwing tech stacks at the problem. That is something that I see really often. You need to figure out what is the company, what's their technology internally. Does it make sense to be React because they want to they already have React developers and then they want to upskill them to React Native? Is it that they're a .NET company and you should use Maui? So they just forget about that and go, this is what I want. And that's really strange.
That leads nicely into the next question. Hybrid, PWA, cross-platform, native. What's your take in all of this?
Yeah, I think one thing you'll never hear me say, of course, is one solution to rule them all. I try to base my advices on hard data. We could have a few interesting data points on the usage apps or web apps on mobile. Is there any difference? So an interesting test that I kind of say anyone at home to do is, let's go with e-commerce because it's a simple journey. Install an app from an e-commerce company and try to do the same journey on the browser. Open the app or the web page, go and search for a product, get the product list, open a product, add it to basket, and try and check out, and measure the amount of time that you take on the web app and on an app. And I mean on the same phone, on the same web, in the same internet connection. Differences, app is normally faster unless there's something wrong. Do I mean that web developers are worse than mobile developers? No, it's just kind of normal tech. On the app, you're just downloading the content and you have the structure. On the web app, you need to download the CSS, all the structure and so on, so you have more data to download and parse. That accounts for the difference. What does this really mean? So it's a little bit slower on the web normally. It means that if you go look into user studies, they say that for every 5 seconds you have a drop of users, for every 5 seconds that they're waiting. And if you're waiting 30 seconds or more, you can have up to 70 to 90% of droppage in the user engagement. So basically, if you're using mobile and it's faster, you are less likely to lose clients while they're doing their journey. So if your business, the core of it is a mobile journey, and then what is the right approach writing if it's React Native, or any of the other? So just take into account what tech stacks you normally use. So if you're that .NET company, maybe it makes sense to use Maui because kind of that's the tech stack that you're at, and you might have some interesting synergies on that. If you're going for the top notch, probably native is the thing that you're going for. You need to think if you want to cover iOS and Android, so if it's useful to think about doing both apps. If you're using Flutter, for example, remember that it's using a rendering engine, which is Skia, which, for example, doesn't fully support liquid glass for now. So if you want to be on the top notch, that might be something that prevents you to do that. Think about the business case first, the context of the business in terms of tech, and then we can advise.
What's the one exciting kind of change in mobile that you think it's still kind of not fully tapped or there's a lot of potential?
There's a big buzzword that you hear, for example, in retail as a good example, which is Omni-channel. There's also Phygital, which is another word. Basically the concept of customers that both interact with you on web, mobile, and on stores, if you have them. The reason why that's a big term is because normally users that kind of consume through several means, so online and in-store, they purchase more, they're more loyal, and so on. So that's the concept. But you can go one step beyond, and you can interact, use your phone, for example, which has location, it has Bluetooth, which has a bunch of things, to when you go into the store, give a way better experience to the customer. So think if you're the owner of a top-notch store, Beyonce goes there, or Cristiano Ronaldo, or something like that, they're expected to have like a very VIP treatment. So they're expected when someone is opening the door, they treat you by name, they already were informed of what you're searching for, what you like, and so on. So you're guided into the best experience that they can, because they know you, they know your preferences, and so on. So if you can have the same experience for any common user, so you have their phone, you have their preferences, and so on, they accept it to share with your company on the mobile app. So when they join through Bluetooth or a bunch of other technologies that you can play with, the person opening the door knows your name. He knows what you prefer. He knows that you like to sit by the window, for example, if you are in a coffee shop, or that you like, I don't know, suits, black suits. So they direct you towards that. And the first time so imagine that you're getting into a store and you have that first impact. Hello, Mr. Guilherme, nice to have you again here. You're probably searching for black suits today, so might I guide you to that part of the store? Kind of, that's a really cool experiment. And is it so hard to do with the means that you have now?
Yeah.
Not really.
So it's all about personalization in this case, kind of enabled through location, but personalization is at the core of.
Yeah. You can then play around with AI, with a bunch of other things. So, but just the concept of really improving the customer experience inside through what you have in your pocket.
What's one tech principle or hill, if you want to, that you're kind of willing to die on?
When I started on mobile, there were no clear architecture patterns to follow. Everybody would kind of write a bit of spaghetti code, no clear perceptions of how to modularize and all of that. That had a big impact as, the app would work, but then a few years after, you'd need to change something. It was a really nightmare. Now we have architectures, now we have like good practices, modularization, and so on. But then I saw it going into the other way, which is over-engineering, where you're trying to solve problems that you don't have. So you're trying to build an app white label that is not white label. You're just building it for one brand, because in the future, in 10 years, they might want to open a second brand. And you're kind of spending way more money, time, and effort building something that is not on the problem statement. So my hill to die on is have the right level of engineering. So of course, don't go back to the spaghetti code and so on. So let's have proper unit testing, UI testing, pipelines, continuous delivery. Make sure that the code is modularized and all that. Not stating anything against that, but do not try to solve a problem that does not exist. That's just burning money.
How often do you find that's the case?
So it's easier to happen when you have very good engineering teams. Funny enough, an engineer normally wants challenges. And sometimes the challenge that they were given is not enough to get them entertained. So they see kind of, oh, what if this was more complex? I could still solve it, and it would be more robust, and so on and so forth. So I think there's a very hard balance of when you have very strong teams, how to keep them motivated and entertained on a problem without them going kind of on wild goose chases.
So a few fire questions for you to
Let's
finish
go.
this off. iOS or Android?
Android still, no doubt.
If you could instantly master one skill outside of tech, what would it be?
I'd love to be a mentalist. A mentalist is not in your head guessing what you're thinking, right? So he's slowly leading you to the path that he wants, then kind of amazing you with basically what he made you do. As in entertainment, I'm not trying to kind of control people, but as an entertainment method, I find it really interesting.
Would that make your job easier at mobile?
So you mean if all the people did what I think? Well,
Take it as you want.
I'm probably wrong a lot of times also. So it would make it easier sometimes, but a lot of times not.
Last one, if you weren't doing mobile within tech, which other area would you choose?
I think the answer now is AI. Like AI is the thing. So just playing around with it. I'm normally half skeptic, half loving it. So sometimes AI is being sold by the companies that are producing it like almost a magic trick where you can kind of see my hands. It's doing a lot of things. And you need to be mindful of what actually it is capable of so that you can both not be fooled and actually take advantage of it. So really deep diving into that would be something that would be fun.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here with you and get to actually ask you some questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you.